I want to dedicate this video to the art of Marty Noble, one of my favorite authors of coloring books. I decided to share with you some of her paintings, and I also decided to show you a couple of her portraits because from time to time I receive under my videos comments that actually Marty Noble is a man. It's a big mistake because she is a beautiful woman. She is an American artist and illustrator, and she has a long story of art in her family. All her four grandparents met for the first time in the art college. Her mm, maternal grandfather and her mother were famous illustrators, and her son also continues the art story of the dynasty. She traveled a lot through the various states of United States through her life. Also, she traveled to Mexico, Thailand, Guatemala, Israel, and many European countries. So she got a lot of experience. She studied various cultures, various art styles. Apart from traditional paintings using watercolors and oil, she also loves to do batik, that beautiful painting on silk. That's why on many of her paintings we can see a lot of very nice soft pastel colors, and I think that her color palette, that was the first thing which helped me to fall in love with her art, and of course beauty of her characters, especially faces of her woman angels. Beneath the video I will leave you links to the Facebook group of Marty Noble and to her official website where you will be able to see more of her paintings. And of course, in this video I also will be talking about my coloring books by Marty. Now I want to show you my finished works in the books by Marty Noble which I own, and my first book where I actually discovered Marty was College Art. You know how rare now is this book, and it's indeed very beautiful. It was probably in my first maybe 15 purchased books, so I own it already for a long time, and here I have mixed of my quite early works and some of the recent pictures. Not recent, but at least in the end of the last year I colored something here. So let's start. When I discovered that polychromases work really well on this paper, it was a blessing because in the beginning it was difficult for me to get used to this yellowish and quite smooth paper, but polychromases which I used here, for example, they really work nice. So now sometimes I use Prismacolors for the background as I did here, and then polychromasis for the details and for tiny elements. I love works pictures here which are somehow connected to Alphonse Mucha style, and here we have good example of it. Color along for this page I have on my channel. And here we have quite a different style of work. It was one of my earliest works, and I remember that it was the first time when I purchased myself uh, black and yellow markers, and they helped me to fill in this background. It's not bad, probably if I would mask some of the black lines here it would be better, and these golden elements of the fans, they are slightly lost on the background, but I tried to maintain colors which are traditional for Chinese lac miniature and for the Chinese furniture also, this gold and dark wood. That's where I got my inspiration. This one I did completely with Prismacolors. I can clearly see their pastel colors here. And for backgrounds, indeed Prismacolors on this paper, they are really very helpful. But smaller details, it's a little bit more difficult to do. Again, it was one of my old works And I remember that it was one of the works when I just started to outline with white gel pen, with white marker, started to get rid of the black lines, and I realized how much I love this effect, especially when on flowers you don't have black lines. This was the page where I discovered how nice polychromacies behave on this paper, and I remember my pleasure when I did these butterflies. So bright and so nicely blended together, big difference with Colorsofts and Prismacolors. This one I did with Prismacolors. I selected it again because it reminded me about Alphonse Mucha, but somehow my favorite part here isn't the left side but more the right side, with fuchsia flowers, with this pastel background and with this tiny bird. It was one of the pages which I always wanted to do, mostly because I love to color pencils, especially when I don't need to do only violet pencils and when I can experiment with yellow variety, with this burgundy red variety. The only thing which I wasn't sure was the color choice for the background. When I did it, I wanted to do something reminding me about terracotta plates, terracotta tableware, and that's why I used this ochre, terracotta, sanguine colors. But when I realized that they actually create not very good contrast to the color of the basket, it was a small problem. But because of the brightness of pencils, now I really love this page. The next one, again, one of my first works in this book, and I remember it was the first time when I purchased myself a metallic acrylic paints. Here I used golden and copper, and they actually really helps me to do a very quick and nice looking background. It always was difficult for me to stay in a limited color palette, but here I managed to do it. Again, everything done with Prismacolors. I can clearly see Dahlia purple and black grape, great lavender on the clouds here. So a lot of nice memories. Another page done with Prismacolors but in totally different style. Here I experimented with gray colors together with beige colors. When I just got Prismacolor set, I wasn't much in love with their gray colors, and only later, step by step, I started to appreciate their gray colors, variety of gray colors, and especially variety of French grays. And here I used them. I think that I did to the St. Patrick's Day, and I do love that it's not over bright and in more muted colors. I tried hard to create this something like carved stone relief, and I still enjoy this page, quite nice, even if it's quite old. Well, I think that here I used mix of Prismacolors and maybe even Colorsofts. I definitely did it when I didn't had polychromacies yet, so I struggled with various pencils. I even added Faber-Castell peat pens to add some contrast, to add some textures, because everything, all pencils, they were gliding on the surface. But in the end, it looks quite nice, Provence country style, and I do love this rooster here. I think that it's my last work in this book. I did this mermaid again, mixing polychromacies and Prismacolors, because for some of the areas like this background where I definitely mixed beige, I think lilac, and probably beige rose from what I can see now. Prismacolors again helped to create background, and polychromacies helped to work on the details. I'm not sure that I do love mermaid. Probably it wasn't very wise to do her tail in the same colors as I used on the background. But as a part of the composition, she's not bad. She's just not the main focal point because of the colors I selected. But I do love this row of fishes. It was a pleasure to do them. This was my first work in this book where I experimented with various mediums. I even used some felty pens when I realized that it's really difficult to color all the small details. Well, it's far from perfect, but it's nice sometimes to look at your first works. Let's move. And here we have the winter scene picture. I do love winter scene pictures by Marty Noble, and that's a good example of them. I think that I selected it because I love these botanical elements, and I always love to color cardinal flowers. Again, here I started to use polychromes already. I can clearly see ultramarine and light ultramarine here. So maybe if the next winter you want to color this page, even if the book is quite rare already. So I do have the color along for these pictures on my channel. It was the book with the biggest amount of finished pictures by Marty in my collection, and now we will be moving to the other diverse books which I own. Peacock designs I received in the end of the previous year, and it's my book for experimenting with various mediums. So far I did several pictures here, not as much as I wanted to, but here was my page to start getting acquainted with monarch color pencils, and also for some of the areas I used my alcohol-based markers. It's an easy, quick way to do backgrounds here. Well, now when I look at it, I think that I was a little bit lazy and maybe I had to work with Posca markers to get rid of the black lines, but at that moment I was much more interested in looking at the pencils, at discovering color combos, so maybe that's why now for me it's a little bit unfinished. The next is much better. I continued to experiment with monarch pencils, and because of their limited color palette, it helped me to invent quite unusual color combos for the leaves, here and here. But I do love it. It's really helpful when you have limited amount of colors, then you go out of your comfort zone and you start experimenting instead of the traditional green leaves. But of course here the main source of the focal point, the source of inspiration for me was this peacock. This time I decided to stay in a really limited color palette, and I love that I added these white tips of the wings. It really helped him to pop up on the intense color of the background. Quite good. Surprisingly here I don't mind if I have this bleeding with alcohol-based markers. In some of the books I don't like it, but here it doesn't bother me at all. And the next one, done in the same technique with alcohol-based markers background. And then what did I use? Maybe some polychromes and color pencils, and maybe even a couple of Mitsubishi, because I wanted to do these camellia flowers in this particular color. And honestly, this color palette isn't exactly mine. I saw on Pinterest beautiful design of fabric, and it has rich blue background and similar camellia flowers, but it was with parrots. I realized that I also want to try to do something on this rich blue with camellias, and why not? It can suit also for the peacock. That's how I find sometimes color palettes for my pages. Now let's move to the Art Nouveau animal designs. Here I can't say that I did a lot. I started something but then I was distracted, so my only finished page is this one. Here I tested Mitsubishi Uno color pencils and alcohol-based markers again, but Mitsubishi Uno isn't the best choice, honestly, for this paper. They prefer paper with bigger tools. And on this Creative Haven paper, anything like Arteza, Prismacolors, Polychromes, they work better comparing to Mitsubishi. They require different type of paper. But in the end, the picture isn't that bad, mostly because I love to color fishes. The next one isn't my very popular book. It was one of the first also which I got. Probably it was my first book in the Creative Heaven series. And it's all based on Alphonse Mucha designs. And I do love it, but I have two reasons why I don't color in it. Mostly because it has extremely thick black lines. It's not bad because many of the Alphonse Mucha pictures they were made like posters and you can color them like stained glass window for examples, but still now as I got another book based on Alphonse Mucha designs, they are made in much more delicate way. So if I would like to color something for Alphonse Mucha, probably I will do it in that book. But still, I have one finished picture here. You know, now when I look at it, I realized that if I colored this one with alcohol-based markers, then maybe I can use this book for practicing coloring with markers. My another Mucha book is not very suitable for markers. I don't want to have these bleeding stains, but here I can practice, so maybe it's a good thing that now I realized it. Another book which I have already probably for 4 years, it's this Steampunk designs. I think that it was one of the first books which I ordered on Book Depository. So for now I have one finished project here, and I do love this steampunk couple. It's not very easy to stay in authentic color palette when you need to color steampunk. I wouldn't say that if I need to color steampunk I would use, for example, pink or a lot of yellow colors. I prefer to use a lot of brown, ochre, terracotta, sanguine, everything connected with metals, with leather and slightly faded fabric. That's why here I have this page also in this palette. And the other thing which I started is this portrait. I don't know why, but I started it a year ago, and even now when I look at it I do love it. It requires still a lot of works on the background and on the main image, but why I hadn't abandoned it? Maybe I will finish it in this April and I will show you the final look of it in the final video of the month. Because indeed I do love my start. I don't know how I was distracted from this beautiful man. Now let's move to the smaller editions of books. These books, they are good example that even if in a very cheap budget coloring books you can do really interesting and inspiring things. This Mythical Mermaids I also got in the end of the last year, and it's the book which I started to color this month. You know that each month I try to add this challenge for me to start at least 2 untouched books. So this was my first book which I started in April, and I have 2 designs finished. The Tropical Mermaid. It's Caribbean girl. I do love that in the lower part we have this Small explanation of the legend, very helpful from Marty Noble to add the name of the character and short story, the country, the territory where she is from. It's really helpful in selecting basic colors. So I did this one, the girl from Caribbean, and the second one which I selected and which I posted yesterday, it's this Poland mermaid from the Warsaw. I saw the sculpture of this mermaid when I visited Poland, and I thought that maybe I want to color it now. I love that this mermaid is in totally different color palette comparing to the first one. So color pencils, they proved to be quite good on this paper, so maybe I will continue to use them. You know, budget pencils, budget coloring books, and again, it's a great proof that you don't need to be working with very professional sets or with very, I don't know, very expensive books to create something interesting. In the beginning, I had doubts about quality of this paper, that it's double-sided, but now I think that I got used to it, and I didn't have any technical problems. I added a little bit of gouache paints to mask some of the black lines here and here also, and that's how I will be continuing to coloring in this book. And finally, Goddesses book, where I already also have quite a lot of finished pictures, and I'm very grateful that I received this gift. Before, I don't think that I would purchase this book myself. I simply hadn't paid attention to this edition, and when I looked at it and the beauty of the designs, I realized that I do love this series. So, what I have in Goddesses, I have my first page was from Norse mythology, and it's Freya. I do love her blue cats. Again, very helpful from Marty Noble to include this in description, because I did know the story of Freya, who she was, and the main story, but I didn't heard that she used blue cats, gift from the god Thor. My favorite medium in this book is polychromasis, and I combine it with various other pencils. This page was my only attempt to use paints here. It didn't bleed through, but I spent such a long time doing this dark blue sky with paint, going around all the details, that I think that maybe with dark blue pencil I would do it quicker. But I really love intensity of the color which gouache provided here. When I color in this book, I really try to research which colors were traditional for this culture, for this time, for this region. So you can see that my both goddesses from the Egypt mythology, they are made in similar colors, even if here I used a lot of colors together with polychromasis and monarch pencils, and this one made with Prismacolors and polychromasis. Now let's move forward. It's one of the books where I definitely would like to color all the pages. This was much more rare for me because I didn't know anything about Mayan goddess Ixchel, so it was nice to read a story that she has two representations as a young woman with child, but sometimes she can be an old woman with snakes on her head. And it's good that we have goddesses from all cultures and all parts of the world. I really want to do this one. It's Sumerian goddess. The next probably is my favorite picture in this book, and it's a white buffalo woman. Everything made with polychromasis and color combo of Indian red and This very rich indigo is one of my favorite. I think that I also added a couple of Arteza because Arteza pencils, they also work well on this paper. Artezas are good here. And I used Artezas for previous page. All the color alongs for these pages in this book I have on my channel, and I highly recommend this book. Pictures are detailed, they are interesting to look at, they have beautiful clothes, ladies are beautiful, and the most important thing, you don't have to think about filling in backgrounds. So my final page is this Tibetan goddess Tara. I selected her variety green Tara, and it was interesting to do her green skin. It was my collection of colored pictures from Marty Noble, but I also have several new books which I own but which I hadn't started yet. Fortunately, it's not so many of them, but still, I need your advice which one you want to color together with me. So I have this wondrous wizards, I have this medieval tapestries, and I have also these two books which I got as a prize is in a coloring contest provided by Livre, so it's my recent addition to my coloring collection and I am totally in love with these both books. I hope that all of them I will start in the next months. So if you love to color a Marty Noble, I will be happy to read your comments about your favorite books or pictures you would like to color. Thanks for watching and thanks for sharing with me my love to Marty Noble pictures and Marty Noble books.